good afternoon. And again, thanks for taking time out of your busy schedule.
Thanks, Ryan.
For those that don't know Stephen, we're super excited to have him here with us today. He is a well-recognized spokesperson, both for the aesthetic industry and for the male grooming markets. And he's routinely featured, not just in publications, but on stages around the world. I'm sure Stephen is very excited because this coming Friday, his awards program, he's the organizer and the host of the world's largest awards program for the aesthetic industry. And not only is he recognizing leading practices out there in the aesthetic space, but he's working one-on-one with practices that are just like yours to help them deliver service excellence. We had a chance to connect recently and talk about these topics, and just in a heartbeat, I looked at Stephen and said, man, you've got to join us on a part of our webinar series and share what you know with our audience. So to that end, Stephen, I'm going to turn my camera off so the focus can be on you. If you would, please take it away.
Great. Well, welcome everyone. I obviously can't see you, so usually I'm doing my presentations live. So I will just imagine that you're all there. So thank you, Ryan, for the lovely introduction. Just to give you a little background and about why I'm really doing this presentation is I've been working in the aesthetic industry for roughly 16 years, predominantly originally from New Zealand. So if you don't understand me, just obviously write a comment on the Q&A and I'll try and translate it better for you. But I lived in England for 14 years, and really that's where I got into the aesthetic sector. And through the awards programs that we've been running all around the world, part of the submission process for practices was that we would mystery shop their businesses, and we would look at their entire client journey to try and understand what was the customer experience that they were delivering. And then they were measured on that, and we were able to get scores, and which I'm going to show you shortly, like a live audit that we do. So over the last 8 years, we've been running the awards. About 2 years ago, what we did was we analyzed about 1,000 practice audits from all around the world, covering Asia, Australia, UK, US, Canada, South Africa. And what we did was we wanted to look at all the challenges that, med spas and plastic surgery practices, dermatology practices were facing, and could we actually put it into an academy where we could actually help you remotely around the world, but also on a one-to-one basis. Something that you'll find really interesting. So what I'm going to show you as well is some interesting statistics. And these statistics really also came from these audits. But also what we did was we spent about 2 years going around to 4 different continents, interviewing around 150 different practices that were multi-million-dollar businesses. And we interviewed everyone from the staff answering the phones, right through to the practice managers and business owners, to see if we could actually understand how they were successful, and again, put this into somewhat of an academy. And to be honest with you, and what you'll see today, and the name of my presentation is how do you measure and implement the killer customer experience? Because with those 150 practices, customer service was at the forefront of all of their businesses, and it was customer service. And so now what we're gonna just take you through is our journey today. So what we're going to look at is how do we identify the current performance of our business? Now, when I ask a lot of practices, I say, like, how do you actually put any measurements in place? How do you know where you are? Because if you're going to spend a lot of money on marketing, how are we going to compare that we're improving? How do we understand our profitability? How do we understand whether our staff are giving us 100% of their potential? So we're going to look at that. We're going to look at how do we maximize now our business potential. So customer experience, we're going to look at, the people in your business, which is the core, the tribe that really makes up the success of every practice. How do we implement systems and processes? What should they be? What's the importance around that? Especially when you're setting up your business, but even more importantly, when you sell your business. Having good systems and processes in place are really invaluable and put a lot of value onto your business, Because if they're all set up and they're in place, then if someone's coming in to buy your practice, then it's already set up for them. Education and training. You'll see this from companies, suppliers and vendors with a real focus around education at the moment. But with the Medical Business Academy, what we want to do is not only improve the clinical training of your employees, but really sort of help with understanding the employees, their motivations, and the training that can go with them to improve their output, improve their confidence, so that everyone is actually singing from the same song sheet and we're delivering that real top level 5-star customer experience to get that client retention and word of mouth. And then now we're just going to have a look at how do we measure success. Okay, so there's lots of different ways we can measure the business. Now, what I'm going to show you is a worksheet that we do with our clients, and it's a really fun exercise, but it's a fantastic way to really break down the numbers. And you would do this with your team so you can actually show them how easy it is to grow the business by just changing small components. So I'm going to show you that in a second. Marketing, can you measure it? Now, I'm not, this is not going to be a marketing talk, but obviously Ryan is the expert in this, but there's lots of different ways we can measure our marketing. Social media, digital marketing now has made it much easier to measure. However, with any marketing, it's important that we want to do a combination of different marketing in terms of digital and print and social media, events in our practices. But we've just got to try and understand how do we measure it. So therefore, whatever's working, we want to spend more money with that. So do you know your customer journey and how to measure it? Have you actually sat down at the beginning of the year and actually mapped out all the touch points within the client journey? So I'm going to help you today if you haven't. And we, as I say, we've got a very detailed audit, and you can actually jot down some notes and actually look at some of the areas and the points of what we've done to really help you map out the steps within a customer journey. And this again was pulled from those 150 really successful practices from around the world. Financial reporting. Now, this is always a tricky one. Some of you are more savvy than others. Obviously, you can get assistance in this. I know a lot of consultants do this, where the financial reporting, how do we measure the conversion rates from answering the phone into consultation to purchase? What value does each client bring when they're coming into the practice? So again, I'm going to show you a very unique business profit calculator that we've created, which is very bespoke to the industry, which enables you to measure some of these figures, but also actually measure the value of the customer experience. And by changing some of those components, what is the difference to my actual business? And then team meetings to review performance. These should be done on a regular basis. And again, we can talk a little bit about that. Okay, so I'm just going to go out of my presentation. Okay, so this is a worksheet. Now, this is a really fantastic way, again, to sort of sit down and look at what is my business doing right now. Okay, so these are the 3 areas that we're going to look at. Number 1, how do we increase the number of our customers, our clients? Second, how are we going to increase the average transaction value? And 3, how do we increase the frequency of repurchase? Okay, so this is something, and again, if you've got a chance, I would really encourage you guys to do this exercise. Again, if Ryan has got some questions or interest from you guys, then I can send you this sheet and then you can actually fill this out afterwards. But the first thing you do here is we look at how many active customers do we currently have in our practice right now. So I'm not talking about the full database, but just be honest with yourself. What is the actual active current customers in your business right now?
Stephen, let me jump in there and ask you to go deeper there, because this is, as we start talking about the different metrics that practices look for performance improvement, this is a difficult one for practices to ascertain, because we find very often we'll ask a simple question like, how many of your Botox customers are adherent to regular retreatment at 3 or 6 month intervals? And practices struggle at that level to get at the frequency that they're seeing their clients over again. What parameters do you put around defining an active customer?
I would say an active customer is anyone that has been into the practice or bought any products or had any treatments within 6 months.
Perfect.
If it's been anything more than that, then there needs to be some marketing in place to really sort of stimulate that interest and get them in. And again, we could talk a little bit about that if that's of interest. There's some nice little ways that you can just trigger responses again with quite a stagnated database. But so within 6 months, so this is, so if we look at, so take a figure of, so I've given you an example here. So let's say we've got 1,000 active customers, okay? So I've put 1,000 in here, and then what is the average transaction value? Now, you could do this exercise, per treatment. So you could actually look at it like, well, we've got 100 active Botox clients and the average transaction value is X. But if you wanted to just do an average for the practice, for the business, then you can do it as well. So let's just say the average transaction value is, I've got £1 in there, sorry. But let's just say it's $100. How many times do they come back to the business during that year? So if it is Botox, then it could be twice a year. And then what you do is, what you want to do is you want to calculate, you want to times those all together to get a number of 200,000. So 1,000 times 100 times 2 is 200,000 turnover. That's if all of your active clients were going and having an average treatment of $100 and they came back twice a year. So really, really simple calculation, okay? So now what happens? Now, a lot of the feedback we always get is from business owners that are running their practices. They say, look, I do actually sit down with my staff and, I tell them that we want to, increase our revenue by X, or we want to increase our profit by X. A lot of the time, what we've seen is that business owners can throw out some really large numbers that can get the employees quite disgruntled, demotivated, because they feel like it's unachievable to get. And this is a great exercise, and we've done this with over 500 of our members, and it's completely changed the outlook of employees. It's become a lot more realistic, because what we're doing is we're breaking the numbers down so it doesn't look so scary. So if I asked you, could you increase your current customers by as little as 10%? Now, usually after one of our workshops, you would have listened to some of our marketing tips. And after the presentation, and hopefully after this one, you'll be able to go back and go, Stephen, I can definitely increase my customer base by 10% by just listening to how to deliver that excellent customer experience that is going to increase my customer base. So if we times that by 10, so that's 1,000 times 10, that's 1,100. And then if we increase the transaction value again by 10%, that would equal 110. Now, if we times again 10% increase of someone coming back twice, now bear with me on this. If it's 2.2, is that right? 2.2? Yeah, 2.2. So if it went to 2.2, then therefore it's not obviously someone coming back half the time. But if we just actually put in the number here, say of 2.2, and you times everything together, what you're actually going to see is a 33% increase overall. Now, once we've had clients do that, they've gone, wow, actually that's realistic. Actually, I think I could achieve that. So then what they do is they go through with their team and say, could we increase it by 20%? And then they do the numbers. And then what you see by the time you times everything together, it's actually overall a much higher growth. Now you might say to me, Stephen, well, how do we actually increase the average transaction value? So if it's $100 and my competitors are charging $100, how could I charge $110? Because therefore I'm going to be priced out of the market. So the way I talk about with clinics is how do we add value rather than actually competing on price? So that could be, you might be offering maybe a promotional free skin analysis, or it could be an additional free maybe skin peel, something that's not going to cost you a lot of money and time, but that will add value that you can increase your price by just as little as 10%. And then again, how do you actually get people, how do you get your clients into the clinic more frequently? Well, that again could be offering an additional treatment or additional a service that would get them in. But this just allows you to sort of really just map out a fantastic way of just breaking it down and then looking at some of your figures. So hopefully that is helpful. Ryan, have you got any questions on that? Or
No, I think the audience is following. And as a reminder for the audience, as this is coming up, use the Q&A button on the bottom of your screen to be able to toss questions in, and I will moderate those for you so we can pass those over to Stephen.
Okay, great. Okay, so just to give you some statistics, that after analyzing around 1,000 of these audits that we have conducted from the awards over the last 8 years, this will just give you some idea. So 70% of practices lose 62% of their business internally. So this is through the employees, through not having the processes and systems in place, but that's a really large percentage. Practices lose 65% of leads because the initial call was not handled correctly. 73% of staff within the consultation do not recommend products with treatments. 90% of practices have no follow-up process after the client leaves the practice. And what we found was there was a very, very low percentage of product knowledge. This was clinical knowledge. So this just shows that even though the companies, all your vendors and suppliers are coming around doing training, it's so important that the training continues after the trainer comes in, because if it's only an 8% product knowledge level, if we increase that on the clinical knowledge, your staff are going to be more confident, coupled with some more skills within the telephone handling or consultation, then you will start to see, again, a difference in your turnover.
And Stephen, if you'll indulge me for 1 second, because I really want to make sure that our audience has the opportunity for these statistics to sink in. We covered this exact topic 2 weeks ago at our client symposium. Interestingly, so we have a great relationship with Allergan, and they shared with us some data that we could share publicly that echoes what you found and shared here. The stat that really stood out for me was that in their large sample of mystery shopping calls, in 85% of cases where the mystery shopper went into the call with the clear intention of booking a consultation with the practice, in 85% of cases, the practices did not ask for the person's name, let alone offer a consultation. And in a setting like this, for a lot of you that are on the call, we have almost 100 people joining us today. We can have that emotional reaction, let the wall come up and say, that's not me. My staff is doing fine. I've got an amazing team. And this isn't calling into question the good intention or the nature of the people on your team. This is really a conversation about really setting expectation, and then empowering your team with the appropriate skills to handle these calls. Because I'll share statistically, and from my own personal experiences, having just in the last month listened to over 200 calls to aesthetic clinics, this data is real. And the idea of lifting those numbers, in the areas that Stephen just shared, especially inside the office, these are very, very attainable goals when we start to break down how we approach this. So, Stephen, thank you for indulging me there. I just want to make sure that our audience takes you very seriously in this moment.
Okay, great. Yeah, I didn't actually scribble them down today, by the way, but I'm glad they match up with the Allegan ones. That's always good. Okay, so I'm actually going to show you a real audit in a second. So you'll actually see how some of these measurements are actually mapped out. But the idea and the way we work with the Academy, and I know Ryan does as well, is we want you to try and be more results driven. So this is being smarter, spending less on advertising, understanding what marketing channels are performing the best. And I'm sure Ryan does with his clients is, what are the channels that are really sort of performing, which is bringing in the right leads. Now, not only is it about bringing in the right leads, but it's how do we nurture that client with the right marketing. So by the end of it, you're starting to get lots of referrals and positive word of mouth that you've got a lot of invite a friend type of promotions that you're not having to spend so much on advertising because everything is so positive about that customer service that you've implemented. It's all about maximizing conversion rates. Just as a side note, one of the presentations that I have done many times over the last 8 years was something called Marketing with Personality. And the whole idea with that presentation and what I've seen through my marketing background and working with clients is if you can personalize your brand in some way, whether that's you being at the forefront of your brand, so whether you're the spokesperson, you're putting your face on the website, on the marketing, or whether it's you look at a typical patient that you actually want to attract more of into your business using their faces. And if they're real actual case studies, I had one fantastic clinic, what they did, and they were so successful with it, was they actually spent 3 days inviting in patients of theirs that were the right target audience that they wanted to even further target. So there were ladies in there that were 45, and they came in and they did a photo shoot with real patients. And they've been using that in their marketing, and it's been so successful that, because what happens is not only was it on their website, they actually created beautiful photos of these women inside the practice. And it wasn't the typical before and after photo, it was them having fun. So what was the actual result of the treatment? How has it changed their life? So these photos really embodied the actual experience that they got out of having that particular treatment. So that's just a really, I mean, if you have the opportunity, that is a fantastic way to personalize your brand. Video production, again, we've produced probably about 6,000 videos for clients over the last 14 years. And again, if you can do any type of video production to personalize your brand, it's a fantastic way to overcome a lot of fears on your website when people are looking at your brand for the first time. So it's like the fear of, what's my doctor going to be like? Are they friendly? Are they personable? Are the facilities clean and professional? And you can do this with really simple short videos, putting them on your website. And what you'll find, what our experience is that you'll get between a 22 and 80% higher conversion rate on your website of them inquiring and booking a consultation online. It's a fantastic and a very cost-effective way to improve your conversions. So that's just me going off a little bit, but as I say, a really, really helpful sort of marketing tool. Focus on treatment plans and outcomes. I still see, a lot of practices still focusing on just one-off treatments. And the idea really where I see clinics really, really flourishing is that when a client comes in, they really try and understand their needs, but look at how to maximize their results, not just in the short term, but a long-term plan. And if you feel that the client might not have the money to be paying off and giving them a plan for 12, 24 months. But if you don't do it, then you'll never know if they weren't going to go for it. A number of clients always had in their mind, oh, I don't think they're going to be able to afford it. I don't want to put together more than a 3-month plan for them, or more than 6 months. And when they actually started to put these long-term treatment plans together, they were completely surprised at how many of their customers actually went ahead and did it. Because at the end of the day, we all want optimal results. And if you can give them more optimal results with treatments that are all coupled together in a treatment plan, you'll be surprised how many people will take it up. Okay. So I will, again, our members, what they get is it's a 20-page, 250 observation report. So this is the audit that we do for all of our members in the Medical Business Academy. So the first thing is when they become a member, we'll assign a mystery shopper, a secret shopper, I think you call it over here. And we have over 1,000 of these secret shoppers all around the world. And they're all trained on our system. And the main reason for this, as you'll see, is the quality of input they put into the reports. But also, we want you to be able to benchmark your results, not just locally, but with other similar clinics from all around the world. Now, what you see here in the audit, it basically details who in the clinic was actually the secret shopper come in contact with. And that's all documented here. The section results. So this is actually the touch points within a typical client journey, a patient journey within a typical aesthetic practice or med spa. So it starts off from booking the consultation, confirmation, how they're greeted when they come into the practice, the waiting room, the consultation, the most important, the product recommendations, what are your retail displays like, and then also the departure as well. And I will slightly touch on the departure because I feel like after this call, you will be able to go away and just implement a couple of these things. And if you do, I will promise you that it will make a difference to actually customers coming back in with a more positive mindset. So I just want to give you a couple of examples. So this, it might be a little bit difficult to read, but this is booking the consultation. So this is the first point when your staff are answering the phone, and it's the first contact they have with a potential prospect of a customer. So you can actually see, so there's a lot to do with the touchy-feely stuff of really delivering a customer experience. It goes into so much detail, but this is a fantastic report also to sit down with your employees and say, this report, these are my expectations I have of you guys in terms of delivering our customer experience. Now, some of them are more related to and are more influenced towards actually the business making more revenue or potentially the business losing revenue. But what you'll see here is we took also some consultants 2 years ago from the hospitality industry, the hotel industry, and the spa industry, where customer service was really at its highest level. And what we did was we wanted to bring some of those really nice touch points so that you could deliver the same inside an aesthetic practice. So because it's a little bit difficult to read, but I'm going to actually read to you the comment that the secret shopper had with this particular clinic. So I made the first call at 6 p.m. on June 3rd and left a message asking for someone to call me back to book a consultation, but nobody called me back. 1 week later, I called again during regular business hours and nobody answered, so I left another message. My call was returned the next day by Erica, who was very pleasant on the phone when making my booking. While getting my details to book me in, she mentioned the consultation was free of charge, but never mentioned anything as far as a cancellation policy, nor didn't she ask for a credit card to secure the booking. Okay, so not all of you will have cancellation policies, taking deposits, etc. But this just gives you an idea. If you do not do any type of auditing or mystery shopping, how do you actually know what's happening in the business? Because if you are the business owner, if you are the key and leading provider and practitioner, you're so busy with doing the actual treatments, and that's what you should be doing in terms of making the money. But this is so important to really understand, because if this keeps happening, you're spending all this money on great marketing and advertising, but you're actually got a very low conversion rate. You're losing customers because they're not actually getting responded to either fast enough or in the appropriate way, which Ryan said in terms of them, your telephone people actually asking, getting the right details and getting them in for a consultation.
Yeah, Stephen, let me build on that really quickly, because I think it's important to highlight this data point. So we record and analyze calls for most of our accounts. And interesting, what we found in a recent analysis looking across all of our accounts is that approximately 10% of all calls during regular business hours today go unanswered. In some cases, it's a matter of during peak times, there's not enough lines inside the office to make the connection. Other times, it's simply that the call goes to voicemail. And what we find is most of the time, when a caller has very little time and they're not engaged in a transaction, they're not calling to adjust an appointment, to get directions. If they are a new prospect, if the phone is not answered, they hang up. And in 80% of those calls that didn't connect, never called back. Because we can track the same caller ID and see if they tried to call the clinic again. So it's definitely important. And what's described in that example, I wasn't aware that you were going to share that example, is something we see all the time.
Yeah, it's one of the most important touch points within the practice. If the person that is answering the phone, that is your first impressions, and generally it's the same person that you'll probably have when the client walks through for the first time into your clinic. They are representing your brand. And what we see again, time and time again around the world, is a lot of the time the practitioner or the owner doesn't value that position as much as everyone else's role. And as you know, Ryan, as well, as this is probably one of the most important roles. Results in terms of giving clients the best outcomes in terms of treatments is essential. But if this role is not filled correctly, then one of the breakdowns in these touch points, so this one here is them answering the phone, then this could really damage your business. Not only from clients not coming into the business, but if the calls are not handled correctly, politely, etc., then it could actually damage your brand, and none of us want negative word of mouth. So this report, you'll see that it's green, orange, and red. This means that if it's orange or red, means it's below the global industry average. So not only does it give you scores, it actually gives you and compares and benchmarks you with global data. So that's the great thing about this, is that you can really see now some of these touch points and where you need to focus the training to be able to make those positive improvements. Now, this is just the consultation part of the segment. So we've had, it's been a lot of fun actually. Some of the surgeons or practitioners that have been mystery shopped have really sort of taken this on board positively and said, do you know what? I take it all on board, and yes, I do need to improve in certain areas. And it's been a real received very, very positively, because at the end of the day, the head practitioner or provider, there's always areas to improve on. And sometimes you might have a bad day, right? So we can't always have a great day. This report is a snapshot of a secret shopper coming in and experiencing something as a one-off. The great thing with a secret shopper, rather than using friends and family or existing clients, is that emotion can come into the audit and skew the data. So it's really important to use some sort of outsourced company to be able to give you more an objective outlook for that. So the departure, this is the biggest opportunity, I believe, absolutely, for any practice. The departure is how you handle the client at that final point. So with this particular example, you can see there's a lot of red points. And what's happened here, and what happens a lot of the time, if you've spent all the money on marketing, you've the conversion rate, so you've got the potential client in for a consultation. Now, if you are doing the treatment at the same time and your consultation and your conversion rate from your consultation to treatment is good, then that will be a lot easier for you. However, with some of the more heavily involved treatments for plastic surgery, etc., what happens is a client comes in for a consultation, then wants to go home and actually think about it. Now, I will tell you, like from those statistics, is that I think it was around that 90% of practices do not follow up with a prospect after they leave the practice. And I keep asking practices, I said, why do you not follow them up? And a lot of them actually say, well, we just found that if the client, was happy with the doctor, that they would call back. But we're all people. We all have busy lives. We all, some of you might have families. Some of you might have other personal interests. We all get so busy. So what happens is a lot of the time they don't actually call back. And if it's left too long, they might actually start looking for other options or get other recommendations from friends and colleagues about maybe another potential plastic surgeon for them to go and see.
Stephen,
so the follow-up is key. Sorry, mate. Go for it.
No, it's okay. I apologize for interrupting you. We've got a question coming in from our audience. The question is about appropriate follow-up. Do you have a recommendation for frequency and the number of times that you would advise clinics to follow up for someone who's been seen for a consultation but didn't book on that day?
Yeah, so I feel the best time is within the week. And this is a fantastic way to be able to implement a process and a system in your business by getting one of your staff members, and give them a little bit of authority on this, is one of the staff, so it could be the one of the receptionists, is every morning for half an hour or an hour, get them to call up all of the clients from the previous week, and just for a courtesy call, ring them up and say, hi, Mrs. Jones, you came in for a consultation, just seeing if you've had any more thoughts and if you're interested in possibly going ahead with treatment. Something as short and simple like that, but actually just giving one of your staff members in the practice responsibility. So every morning that they're always calling up those clients that were in from the previous week. Because some of our clients have said, well, we don't have time. We need to employ someone in to come in and do that. But actually, it doesn't take a lot of time. And just getting one of your staff member to do it at the beginning of every morning is a great way to handle that.
It's funny, Stephen. I find with our accounts, we will at times have to use the dating analogy that, we get introduced to somebody, they come in for a consultation, they've only just met us. And of course, at the end, we have to ask them, because we need to make the sale, the equivalent of, will you marry me? And we all agree that in most interactions, if we met somebody blindly on the street, we sit down together, have a drink, and the person next to us said, well, will you marry me? We think they were crazy. And the reality is we're lucky in our clinics because so many of the people who come in are, because of the good work we're doing, are referred to us by way of word of mouth. It's not really a blind date. And a lot of those close on the first visit. They say, yes, I will marry you. I will let you inject me or lase me or cut on me because I have a dear friend who said you're a great person. But for the majority of those new leads that are coming in that are by way of marketing, that dating is a little bit cooler, and they may not be ready on the first meeting to say, yes, I will marry you. And we need to go back and ask them out again and say, we had such a nice time when we sat down together and talked in the consultation. Could we spend a little bit more time together? And let me answer a few more questions. And you can ask again, will you marry me? But we can't expect everyone to say yes at our first meeting.
Absolutely. And I think, as I say, the more involved the treatment is, I think, Ryan, I think it was, in terms of a consumer actually thinking and going ahead for something like a plastic surgery procedure, it's almost, I think, 7 to 8 touch points before they actually make that decision. So that might be looking at things on the website, seeing the practice in a magazine, going in for a number of different consultations. So don't get disheartened that nothing, as Ryan said, nothing happens at the first point of call. If you just have the right process and the follow-ups, something as simple as a courtesy call is a fantastic way of just giving that extra added value customer service. But it will actually, you'll notice a real difference on how many more customers are, those prospects are coming in and becoming patients or clients of yours. So what I'm just going to show you now is the inside of the Medical Business Academy. So this is where the audits go for our particular members. But what I want to show you now is another little measurement for you. And I'll just briefly go through this, but again, I can take you through a live demo if any of you are interested at a later date. So what this is if you remember the audit that I showed you, so what happens, the last audit that we did for your practice would get inserted into the left-hand column. On the right-hand side, this enables our clients to be able to actually put in some realistic numbers, but actually, by putting in these numbers, it personalizes it a little bit to your business. But it'll actually show you the revenue losses, but also the revenue potential growth within your business. So I'm just going to give you an example. So let's just say here, the number of new customer inquiries we get a day is around 10. So this could be email inquiries or telephone calls. What's the average treatment spend? So let's say it's $500. That could be a Botox treatment. So they would come back maybe twice a year to have that, could be 3 times. This is a figure that all of our members absolutely love. It's like, what is the lifetime value of a customer if we look after them in terms of customer service? Okay, what we see a lot of the time is that business owners within the practice, they get frustrated because they spend their money on marketing and actually they might get 2 customers out of 10 that have actually gone ahead with, say, Botox treatment. And they say, oh, well, we've only had, so that's 2 clients, so that's $1,000, but we've spent, $10,000 on advertising, but we've only had 2 clients that have spent $500 each, so that's $1,000. But what they struggle to understand is, but if we look after those clients, what is the lifetime value? And if you don't know, it's a fantastic way to put in and say, do you know what? I want to look, if we look after our clients, I want to look and see what the numbers would look like after 3 years, 5 years, and 10 years. And you can actually manipulate those figures. This here enables you to understand. So if we did actually upsell every patient with some skincare or another treatment that might complement it, then you can actually put in, so let's say product spend was $150 each client spends on skincare, and they would come back twice a year to repurchase. We just click save, and then all the figures are done for you. So basically it's saying that through the audit and the numbers that you put in, you have a conversion ratio of 4.73. So very, very quickly, and as I say, I'm more than happy to do any live demo with any of you individually. It's absolutely fine. Is per customer, based on your numbers, a Botox patient with an upsell to skincare, each of those patients is worth $1,300. Now, let's just say you had 100% success rate in your audit. That means for all of these 10 clients, you were converting everyone into a Botox and an upsell into skincare, okay? This just shows you the ideal value. So it would say, well, over a year, my business would be turning over 4.7 million. Now, we all have ups and downs in our business, changes of employees, seasonality, ups and downs. So what we're actually showing you here is based on your last audit and your numbers you've put in, it's saying you with the current conversion is around 2.2 million and the potential improvement is the difference between the two. So it really gives you just an understanding of, wow, look how much more money we could actually bring into the business now that we can understand it because we've done an audit. And if on our next audit that we do through the Medical Business Academy, and you improve this from 67 to 85, or improve product recommendations from 10 to 30, you will see a really big difference in these figures. Now, you haven't had to spend any more money on marketing or advertising because actually you're understanding your business better. You've got more of an attention to the customer service, the touch points within your business. By just identifying and tweaking a few of those things, and I'll show you some of the training initiatives, it will automatically, you'll start to see a real difference in the revenue and profitability of your business. And what it shows is per month, per week, per day. And then this is the 5-year data. This is what all the members love, is it's saying over 5 years, what is the value to our business if we kept those patients? We had high client retention, word of mouth. What would those figures look like? So that just gives you an idea there in terms of that. I'll just go back to my presentation. Okay, so developing a memorable customer experience. So with our last consumer research survey, so what you'll see through our site is we have, we do a consumer insight survey once a year. The last one was with 8,000 actual aesthetic patients from the US. And we found that 80% of customers return to a practice because of customer service. That's a huge number. So if you don't have your customer service map all laid out and you don't have a focus towards it, outcomes are important, but look at the percentages of people just coming back because they love the experience. They love you. They love your team because they feel like they're getting an experience, not just being sold to or not just having a treatment. They're actually getting the full service. If you're expanding your business, so for example, a number of our clients have got 2 practices, 3 practices, some have got 500 locations. It's so important to map out that customer journey, to have all the training in place, so therefore you can replicate it as you expand within each of the locations. So this is so important if you want to expand and you feel that you're a practitioner and you feel the business is all around you. We've had a number of our clients that have gone out and brought in other practitioners for other locations, but they were originally quite nervous about it because they said, well, all my patients want to come see me because I've had the business for so long. But over time, as we made the business more around customer experience, the customer journey, they were able to replicate what they did and have other practitioners because the experience was the same, even though they weren't seeing the doctor. And customer experience, again, if you have a 5-star experience, it's a fantastic way to differentiate your brand to your actual competition. So the common challenge business owners face with their team generally is hiring staff. How do we incentivize them? How do we keep them? How do we motivate them? How do we train them? And how do we make them sell? Now, we all know that therapists and our associates, they don't like to sell. So there's ways of being able to do that without making them feel like that. So just to give you some more statistics here. So why does staff leave our business? So 62% of staff leave a business because they don't feel appreciated. Something as simple as a thank you. Doesn't always have to be a monetary thing, but just we see time again is that they just don't feel that they have a place or they feel valued, that the business owner or the practitioner is actually noticing what they're doing and their good work. So again, remember those staff reviews I said, even a weekly sit down with your staff members, your team, just even for half an hour at the beginning of the week, just to say, what did we do last week? Give me 3 positive things, 3 experiences, positive experience you had with our clients. And maybe what was one thing that you felt was a challenge. And everyone gets to share that. And then everyone's really motivated for that week ahead. Now, 42% of staff leave because they are confused on what their job role is and who they are supposed to be reporting to. 32% leave because they don't feel they have enough variety in their job. 69% of employees say that they would work harder if they felt their efforts were better recognized. 60% of staff reported that they would like feedback on a weekly basis. This number increases 72% for employees under the age of 30. So again, those millennials that are coming through, possibly a lot of the reception staff that you're using are maybe slightly younger. They need a little bit more nurturing. So you just need to make sure that you understand how the millennials think and work. About 45% of respondents also value feedback from their peers and clients or customers, yet less than 30% said they actually receive it. So that's all good with the audits that we do, or it could be just with surveys or feedback forms that you have in the practice. Constantly get feedback from your customers and external sources, because at the end of the day, we all want to improve and we all want to make, again, more money, have more time to spend as well in personal life. So performing people, the thing is we want the best out of all of our staff. So what we need to do is we need to create a culture that they love to surround themselves in. So we do some fantastic exercises with our members in terms of developing a culture, setting a vision in their practice so that it can really sort of be felt and rolled out amongst all their employees. Customer service needs to be at the forefront of everyone's person in the clinic. Give them the right tools to aid them in the selling process. Give them responsibilities. And as I said, with that farewell in the audit, that follow-up process, just giving one of your employees the responsibility to phone up all of those potential clients that came in the week before for a consultation, that's giving them responsibility. Doesn't mean that you're giving them full access to bank accounts and giving them huge responsibility. Just a little bit can actually really make them feel valued within the business. Incentives, good recruitment and training programs, and as I say, a focus around training your employees is key. My last thing I'm just going to show you here is, so inside the Medical Business Academy, through the audit, which I've shown you, is we identify the areas of where the business could improve. You put it into the calculator to actually show you real numbers. And then what we have here is a full training platform for your employees. And this, again, are solutions to every single part of the audit. We give role plays of the wrong way to do, like real audits of bad examples, but also good examples, some good scripts of how to do things throughout the whole client journey. We're also working with a lot of suppliers that are adding their own clinical e-learning to the platform, so you can have it all within one training dashboard. And then also the platform enables you to actually upload all your internal training as well. This is something that a lot of our clients said, look, we've got so many training folders around our clinic. Is there any way we could actually use the training platform to upload all of our own staff handbooks, our own product training? So a lot of our members are using this platform, not just for all the customer service training, but actually for their own training portal for all their own employees. So the first thing you do is you upload all of your staff and employees. They all get their own logins, and then they would log in, watch the e-learning, and there's little tests and assessments. And then if they pass all of them, they get certifications. But then you'll be able to reward them as well. If they pass and they do their training and they get good marks, then you might be able to give them a monetary incentive or something that they might value within their job. So if there's any questions now, just to give you an overview again of the Medical Business Academy that we've set up. We're based in Newport Beach in California, but we have offices in London, Sydney, and Shanghai as well. But the whole idea, the premise of the Medical Business Academy, my goal was to help you really identify what is actually going on in my practice. We hear time and time again that everyone is so busy in their business, but busy doing what? And what you want to identify is that your employees are busy doing the things that they're supposed to do that are really going to deliver a 5-star customer experience, but help you build the business, help it be more profitable, enable you to spend more time on the business rather than. And again, this platform enables you to monitor and reward your staff on a regular basis by giving you the data points and also the training. So hopefully that gives you a nice little overview.
Absolutely. Well, thank you again for joining us today. As a reminder to everybody on the call, located on the bottom of your screen for most of you, on the top for a few of you that are on iPads, is the link to the QA box. Now, the QA box is your opportunity to type in a question that I'll be able to moderate, share those questions with Stephen. We've got a few queued up, Stephen, but I want to get us started right away with one that's important for me. The issue of lifetime value is a difficult one, especially as we look across different types of clinics. A surgical practice is going to have a very different outlook on the value of an individual patient than, say, a medical spa that's hoping to see somebody back in just a few weeks. How do you coach clinics to address this issue of lifetime value and the concept of retreatment? Can you, I realize it's a very loaded, it's a very difficult question. Can you encapsulate that? Can you bring that down to a fine point?
Yeah, the whole idea with trying to actually understand, try and understand the lifetime value of a customer is really going from individual transactions within a practice, so a one-off treatment, to what does actually my client really want? Is it the treatment, or what do they want as an outcome? What do they want as an experience? And how do we actually get them there? And it's a journey, and you can't actually give them that experience and journey, from my perspective, with a one-off treatment. So we're trying, through our coaching, is looking at the calculator. This is just a way to show you, basically, if someone comes in for a particular treatment with an upsell to another treatment, an additional treatment, what is really the value of that customer over that certain time? Now, with plastic surgeons, it's a little bit difficult because they come in for a particular one-off plastic surgery procedure. It could be a facelift. But now that what we're seeing a lot is plastic surgeons are setting up med spas.
Yeah.
So this has been a fantastic way for them to continuously have that client retention, because they're referring them into the med spa. Now, there's still a lot of challenges with what we're seeing with the plastic surgeons, because they're not used to selling and cross-selling. So a lot of the time they're not referring them to the med spa, which they should.
Yeah.
But that having a med spa, the non-surgical treatments, has been a fantastic way to keep that relationship with your clients for a lot longer than a particular treatment. And the simple thing is skincare. Skincare, everyone should be having skincare. Sunscreen is essential. So if you had it completely right, they should be coming in every 6 weeks to the clinic to repurchase those products. But if you actually change the business to be around the customer service, the experience, then when they come in and repurchase those products, then they're going to start talking to maybe the clinician, maybe the reception staff, they're going to see new things and want to try new treatments, because there might be something running on the waiting room TV of a video of a new treatment that you're actually doing. And it's a fantastic way to sort of keep that relationship up. So I don't know if I've completely answered that in terms of my answer, but
well, I think it may be getting at the core of what I was saying. For plastic surgery practices that don't have an annuity business built in are going to struggle. Lifetime value is probably going to be the value of that one treatment if we neglect the value of that patient's word of mouth and the possibility that we might see them again 10 or 12 years down the road. But let me actually move the question on, because we've got a great question here from Eva, and apologies while I read it. Looking across all of your data, let me paraphrase here. What elements of service are most practices getting wrong? What's I guess they're looking for kind of the soundbite. Where should they maybe go look and for an opportunity to improve specifically inside of the practice, if based on what you see that is missed the most often?
Yeah. So the two core areas is the beginning and the end.
Yeah.
So it's the first impression and it's the last impression. And I think you've probably heard lots of different talks about how important it is to get the right people that are answering the phones that are actually the first impressions. People come up with all sorts of great names, but the first impressions analyst, where they're really sort of making sure that they're handling the calls properly in a timely fashion and making sure that they're just getting them in for the consultation.
Yeah.
We find the consultation a lot of the time, the practitioner is very good at that. So it's all we have to do as staff is to support the practitioner in getting them into the clinic so they can really do their work and be passionate in the consultation. But again, they've got to be confident to be able to ask for the sale as well, unless it's a big treatment where they need to go, the patient needs to go around and think about it. But I gave you a good example today of the farewell, the follow-up process. I still think that is an easy solution that all of you can go back today, implement by looking at what is your follow-up process. If someone has either come in for a consultation, they haven't had a treatment, or if they are a client of yours, have had a treatment, what sort of follow-up is done with that? Because again, if you're not following up with that patient, just as a courtesy call to say, hey, Mrs. Jones, you had that Botox treatment. Have you got any questions? You know, you enjoying your results? Something really simple, because what's going to happen is that they're going to probably go down, they're probably going to be shopping and at the supermarket, and they're going to see some friends. And then because you've had that nice warm follow-up, they're going to speak really positively about it. And word of mouth is key. And I know a lot of practices, they want to build their businesses based on that. So farewell and the initial point of call, which is the telephone handling.
Excellent, Stephen. On that note, I want to thank you again for taking time out of your busy schedule to be with us and to share your insights with our audience. We've run out of time today, but hopefully as other questions come in, we'll be able to filter those and get them addressed by email. As a reminder for everybody on the call, keep in mind, we record all of these events. We want to encourage you to share them with your friends and your colleagues. It'll take about 4 days to process the recording, get that online, and get an email in your inbox. And we'll be sure to include in there as well, not just the link to the recording, but Stephen's contact information if you'd like to learn more about either the reward program or the Medical Business Academy. So again, Stephen, thank you very much. And to everybody on our call, have a great day.
Thanks, Ron.